Thank you for joining. My name is Josh. I'm a Gold Student Ambassador in the Microsoft Student Ambassador Program. And I'm excited to be sharing with you about how you can build smart applications using the Microsoft Cognitive Services. So how I'm going to do this, I'm going to do a simple introduction of what Microsoft Cognitive Services are actually, and then I'm going to do a few demos and also show you how you can get started, and also maybe I might end up with showing how you can integrate the cognitive services into your applications. So to begin with, I'm going to demystify some few things, and that is artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning. So machine learning is basically, if you've been to a talk where someone is talking about machine learning, you've definitely come across or seen this scary diagram kind of. So where it shows different layers interconnected. So basically, what machine learning is, it's actually a set. It's a set of algorithms that are used to train a neural network. So like you have the data which you want to train, and you start with some random weights, as you can see on the left, on the right, sorry. You start with some weights which you sum them up together with a bias, pass them through an activation function, and then you keep reiterating over that. So this is not what we're going to cover today, but essentially I'll be showing you how we can reuse already trained machine learning models. So a model that has already been created, and then we consume that. So artificial intelligence in itself, when you're thinking about it, there are these three. You can think of artificial intelligence, machine learning as these three concentric circles inside each other, whereby artificial intelligence encompasses both machine learning and deep learning. So it's a product of both machine learning and deep learning, where machine learning is this set of algorithms that are used to train a neural network. Now, deep learning itself, it's a subset of machine learning that is composed of layers of neurons that are stacked together. So if you're coming from a programming perspective, or rather if you're a developer, you definitely know when you're building your applications, you normally have your data and your algorithm for you to get maybe an answer. So like, for example, if you're creating an algorithm that compares maybe the different heights and maybe gives you the largest height. So like, you have your algorithm and you have data that has all these different heights which you're going to compare, and then once you pass your data through that algorithm, you're able to get your result, or rather you're able to get an output which tells you the height. So it's almost the difference now. Once you come into machine learning, instead of starting with data and an algorithm to get an answer, you start with data, your answers, and then for you to get an algorithm. So what that means is, in machine learning, sorry for that. In machine learning, what happens is that you start with your data, and then, so like, when I mean you start with your data and you already know the kind of result you're expecting. So what that means is, for example, if you're building a model that should be able to identify cats, or rather horse or dogs, anything, you'll start with your data which you want to train, which you want your model to learn, and you need also to have like your answers in which it's able to score and know like this is what a cat is like, so that as it learns, it's able to compare and understand, and then at the end it gives you a result. But in machine learning, we don't just call it an algorithm, it's called a model. So basically, that's how machine learning is. You'll have your data, which is now your training data, and you also have your test data, which as your model is learning, it's able to compare. It's able to compare, or rather, compare and see whether it's learning in the right direction. And then once you have your model, once you have your complete trained model, now you can use this model with another set of data that has not been you can use your model on another data that your model has not been exposed to get predictions. So like, for example, if you are creating this model to identify cats, once you complete training, now you can take a new image of a cat and pass it through your model and see whether it's able to predict or identify whether the image you've given it is a cat or not a cat. So basically, that's in simple terms, or in layman's terms, that's the structure, or rather that's how machine learning works. So when we talk about artificial intelligence, the implementation, you can categorize it in these three categories. It can either be very easy to implement, medium, or hard. So if you're using an existing model like what we're going to be doing today, it's definitely easy because you don't go through the hassle of training your own model. The model is already trained, the model is already built, and the only thing you have to do is consume that model from an endpoint, either as an API, or if you have a model that is already trained and exported, you just consume it from that point. It can also be relatively not as easy as that when you need to customize a pre-trained model, and it can be very hard as well when you need to train a new model, because on the extreme right, you'll need to cater for, you'll need to have your training data, you need to set up your development environment as well, because machine learning is pretty intensive in terms of compute. If you'll be doing it on your PC or if you'll be doing it on the cloud. So on the far end, it will be a little bit complex than on the far right. And so the building or rather training your own machine learning model, building it from scratch, we're not going to be doing that today, but I might leave you a few resources at the end of the session if you're interested in looking into that. But we'll be focusing on the easy, or rather the easy and the medium part, where we consume a model, or we consume an already trained model, or we can customize we can customize a pre-trained model. So as I said, on the easy part, you can just use the hard work of everyone else, and someone who has just gone and trained their models, and then you can consume that, and that's the route we're going to go with. We're not going to go with the first route of building everything by ourselves. So looking at the Microsoft AI platform, we still have you can be able to build your AI models in the three categories I just showed you, of either easy, medium, or hard. And you can use, like, for example, the pre-built AI services on Azure Cognitive Services. That's easy because the model is already built, and you just consume from an already built model. But you can also go ahead. Microsoft also offers virtual machines where you can go and deploy your virtual machine and your own data science VM, and you can be able to train your model. But the stack of Azure AI, this is just some of the few services that are offered on the Azure AI, on Azure for AI. So we have the cognitive services, which is what we're going to be dealing with today. We have the bot service, which offers conversational AI, and with the bot service, Microsoft Azure will be able to provide an end-to-end solution where you are able to build your bots and also deploy them to the different endpoints. Endpoints where they are consumed, whether it's on Telegram, Facebook Messenger, wherever. Microsoft Azure should be able to help you build and deploy the bot service, so it will offer an end-to-end solution. So then the Azure infrastructure, we have the databases that are all built on, as you can see, AI on data and AI on compute. You can see the different services that are offered, from Cosmos DB, a SQL database. They have the data lake, and then Microsoft Azure will be able to provide all of these compute resources, either CPU, FPGAs, GPUs. You can be able to deploy your GPU virtual machines, which you can use to train your deep learning model. I believe they are from the N series virtual machines. They have GPUs, and you can be able to deploy a VM with the GPU and train your AI model. Microsoft on the right, you can see Microsoft Azure supports several deep learning framework, from the CNTK, which is the cognitive toolkit, TensorFlow, Caffe. It also supports things like PyTorch, Keras, whatever framework you're coming with. Almost all deep learning frameworks are supported on Microsoft Azure. So if you're going on the route of creating your own deep learning model, whatever framework you're conversant with will be able to run on Microsoft Azure. But for purposes of today's session, we're just going to focus on the pre-built AI service on Azure Cognitive Services, and that's what I'm going to explore. So Azure Cognitive Services is a set of simple APIs that harness machine learning, so you can add AI to your applications without needing a deep understanding of AI. What that means is that on Azure Cognitive Services, the models are already pre-built, and you only need an endpoint where you can call. So, for example, if you need you're building you're building an application where you need to identify maybe faces, to count the number of faces, or identify how many people are in a certain image. You can just be able to send that image to the endpoint, and then it will be able to give you back results in form of JSON. So cognitive services, you just consume it from an endpoint. The model, as I said, the model is already pre-built. So cognitive services will fall under this category of easy to medium, because the model is already pre-built, and maybe the only knowledge you need is on how to consume. As long as you're able to make a HTTP call to the endpoint, or just making a REST call to the endpoint, then you're safe, regardless of whatever language you're using to develop your application. Though there are already some SDKs that are available for some of the languages, but even if there is no SDK available in the development language you're using, it will be very easy for you to consume just by making a REST call to the endpoint. So cognitive services, Azure Cognitive Services can be divided into all of these categories from vision, speech, language, knowledge, and such. But mainly for purposes of this demo, if time allows, I'll be able to go to do vision, speech, language, and maybe search. But under vision, you can be able to do OCR, that is the optical character recognition. You can do handwriting recognition. You can be able to detect faces, detect emotions. You can be able to do video indexing and extract insights from a video. So anything computer vision, anything that falls under computer vision, Azure Cognitive Services covers pretty much of that. Then in speech, you can be able to do translation, where you can be able to translate from one language to the other. You can be able to do speaker ID and authentication, real-time speech translation. You can also be able to do speech to text. That is the speech transcription, like when you speak, it's able to transcribe whatever you're talking into a text. And then language that will involve things like sentiment analysis, text moderation, spell checking. Azure Cognitive Services will also be able to help. We can also provide these endpoints where you can be able to perform things like sentiment analysis, phrase detection, text moderation, and all of that. So you can be able to see the different scopes, or rather the different capabilities it offers that you can be able to consume in your application without the need of understanding or the need of having a deep knowledge in artificial intelligence. As long as you know, I need I need this feature in my application where I'm able to do spell checking. You know, you don't need to go build the whole model yourself. You can just be able to make this call to an endpoint, to the cognitive services endpoint, and you're able to consume that with less amount of work. So I'm going to do a short demo specifically for vision and speech. And then for search, if time allows, we'll try doing as well as something. I'll try and maybe introduce the concept of cognitive search. That is if time allows us. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to share a different window. I don't know up to there whether there are any questions so far. So maybe Sonia can let me know whether there are questions, because I'm sharing my screen and I will not be able to see the chat.
Yeah, I'll tell you if there are any questions.
All right. So I've stopped sharing and I'm sharing my desktop screen. Let me know whether you can see my desktop screen.
Yes, we can.
All right. So I'm sharing my screen. What I'm sharing is called the Intelligent Kiosk. So the Intelligent Kiosk allows you to explore all the different, not all, but most of the different services offered on cognitive services. So you can just go to the store, to the Windows store. It's available for Windows on Windows 10. You can just go to your Windows store and download Intelligent Kiosk. It's what I'm going to be doing a demo. I'm going to be using it to do the different demos, just to show you the different capabilities of cognitive services. So I believe Sonia had shared the link to download Intelligent Kiosk in the meeting invite. But if you don't have the link, maybe I'll be sharing it with you at the end of the session. So once you've downloaded Intelligent Kiosk, the first thing you need to do is go to Microsoft Azure, and you go to Azure and configure, or rather create the cognitive services resource. So once you go to portal.azure.com, ensure you have a subscription. If you don't have an active subscription, you can just create you can get a student's subscription by going to aka.ms/Azure for students. So you create a resource. So the reason we are creating a resource is because we need the keys, the API keys, which we are going to add to Intelligent Kiosk. And this applies whether you'll be consuming it in your application. You'll need these API keys for your application. So you just search for cognitive services. And then create. So you should be able to select your resource group, your subscription, give it a name, select the pricing tier, and then you'll have to agree to the terms of use, and then you create. So I had already created beforehand. So I'm just going to open the resource that I had created already. It's under the resource group garage. Yeah. So if you have ever used cognitive services in the past, you remember there used to be a key for everything. So like there was a key for form recognizer, there was a key for the face API, there was a key for speech, but right now you only need one key. So at the moment it gives you one key which you are able to use across. So I know if you have ever used, you remember sometimes back there used to be very many keys for all the different services offered on cognitive services. But I guess as the services kept building up, it was, you end up dealing with so many keys. So I guess that's the reason they replaced it with only one key. So you have this one key which you can use to access all the which you can use to access all the cognitive services endpoints. So just to mention, some services are not available in all regions. Like for example, I deployed these. I created this resource in South Africa North. That's the region that I selected. But I realized something like form recognizer isn't available in South Africa North. So I guess depending on the service you're looking for, I would really encourage you first check whether the service is available in that particular region. If it's not available, you just check which other region it is available in, and you create your resource in that region. So what you're going to then, the other thing, if at any one point you feel like a key you are using is compromised, you can always regenerate key 1 or key 2, and it's going to replace the key that was there, and it will invalidate the previous key and generate a new key. So that's just another thing to highlight. So you'll just need to copy either of these key, either key 1 or key 2, either of them. Once you copy, you go back to Intelligent Kiosk. Go back to Intelligent Kiosk, and under settings, once you come under settings, you should be able to see down here, you should be able to see the cognitive services keys. So as I said, initially we had a key for everything. We had a key for the face API, for speech. So you will just have the key here. You just press the key and ensure you select the location, because the reason I say you need to select the location is because the endpoint, will, or rather, sorry, it's because the location you select, the location you select is the location in which you deployed your resource. So ensure you select your locations. For now, we're not using custom vision for this demo, so I'm just going to skip that. I realized form recognizer doesn't support South Africa North, so this key will not work unless I go and create another resource in a different region, like maybe West Europe, if it's there, like West Europe, and then maybe and then have it there. So you'll just come and paste your keys here, and then once you've done that, that's all. It automatically saves. But once you paste, it automatically saves, and then we can now begin doing the demo. So I'm going to do 2 demos first. The first one that I'm going to do is the translator. So what the translator does is, if you were to type a text here, you expect to see a direct translation on this other end. So maybe I'm just going to try out with English on one end and Swahili on the other end. I believe it supports Kiswahili. Yeah, Swahili on the other end. So if I was to say maybe something like hello, so it automatically translates in real time. So I don't know what else we can try typing. Maybe something like this. Sorry. So yeah, it automatically does translation and in real time. So these might be, if you want to implement the translation from a translation feature in your application, then this is an endpoint which you can easily consume in near real time. So that's that, and it supports very many languages, and you can also you can be able to switch and maybe type in Swahili something like, okay, this is not English. So it does a good translation on that as well. So that's an endpoint that will be handy in your application if you're looking for a translation API. The other one is like the Vision API Explorer. So maybe I can try using my camera. Hopefully it works. Right. Okay. So if I was to take a photo of myself, she'll be able to analyze and extract meaningful information like the background, the foreground, and maybe you might be wondering where something like this background, foreground, where it all applies. Maybe I can give a simple example on mobile applications like WhatsApp or Twitter. Maybe you've seen, depending on your profile picture, the toolbar. It's called the toolbar. I believe so. Changes depending on the foreground or background of your image. The same thing applies. I believe WhatsApp, that really happens when, depending on the foreground or background of your image, it's able to change the taskbar. So it might be very handy when you're looking to implement such kind of a feature whereby you can be able to extract the prominent colors from an image and use them accordingly in your application. It's also able to identify a person. So you can see this outer bounding box, and it identifies a person with a confidence of 87%. It's also able to identify a face. So there is one face, one object, no landmarks. So the thing, yeah, it gives a description: a man with a beard. That's pretty correct. And there are also some few more things down here, like it's a person, human face, man, male, and all of that. It's able to identify things like that. So the other thing is you can also be able to identify things like landmarks. So if I was to download an image of a prominent landmark, like I don't know which is a prominent landmark that I can try. Someone give me a suggestion, maybe.
Statue of Liberty.
Okay. I just statue. So if I was to download one of these, so just let me save image as. Let me save it on the desktop. Let me call it. I'm not sure that it's going to accept that image format. Let me try getting a JPG format. Okay, save image as. Okay, that is still not a JPG photo, but I hope it's able to load. I'm not sure. So we can try another image, and this time around maybe from a local file. Desktop. Okay. So again, it's able to extract. It's able to extract the foreground. Let me see whether it's able to identify it as a landmark. No, it didn't capture that as a landmark. I'm not sure why. But it does say a person holding a torch with the Statue of Liberty in the background. Okay, so you can be able to play around with these the same way. If I was to pass in text, it should be able to if I was to pass in an image with text, it should be able to capture. I should be able to perform OCR and extract the text from that. And also maybe I'll show you something with handwriting recognition in a few. So there are a lot of other APIs which you can just play around, especially if you're trying to if you're figuring out, do cognitive services have these features that I can be able to implement in my application? Then definitely just download the intelligent kiosk. Just explore around. There's just a lot which you can be able to implement. Things like form recognizer, if you want to extract information from something, maybe even something like a receipt. What this does, it's able to once you take an image of something that has a table, it's able to identify key value pairs. So it's able to identify if it's something like an item name and the cost. So things like that. So it comes in very, very handy when you want to do things like that. I'm trying to rush because of time, but yeah, you can just download Intelligent Kiosk and see all of these services. Once you've identified what service you need to you want to implement, I'll be showing you where you can be able. I'll be showing you in a few where you can be able to find the documentation on how to implement, because it's just one call, it's just one REST call to the endpoint, and you're able to get the results. So we have everything under vision, we have decision and search. There is language and speech, where you can be able to do things like neural to speech is where you give it a text, and then maybe you can select a voice that is able to read it out loud. Yeah, so there's this one. Maybe I'm not sure whether this one is going to work. So I'm not very good at smiling. So anyway, what it should be able to capture diff when I'm smiling, and should be able to tell I'm smiling and extract something here. So I don't know. So yeah, you see, it was able to capture something, my facial expressions, happy, neutral. So if I was to make different expressions, like maybe angry or disgusted, it's just going to keep adding them here. So if you want to have something like that where you're able to capture emotions, then this might be a handy tool as well. So I don't know whether there is any questions so far. So I'm going to do one final thing, as I had illustrated on this slide, about something called cognitive search. And just to do a demo of that, I'm going to use a demo site that was put together by Microsoft, the JFK demo website. So I guess this was back in 2018 when the US government released all the files regarding the investigation for the assassination of JFK. That was John F. Kennedy, the president of the United States. So when they released these files, when they released the files regarding the investigation, Microsoft created this demo site where to show you a demo of how you can come with your own data. And then maybe I'll give you some different examples of how you can be able to leverage cognitive search. They created this demo site on how you can be able to apply something called cognitive search, and create this relationship between objects in your data. So when all these documents were released, Microsoft applied cognitive search onto those documents, and then you could be able to see the relationship between different objects, different pieces within the document. So maybe we can just start by searching from all those documents that were released. Maybe search someone like Oswald. And what it does, it's able to scan through all those documents. It's able to identify every part where the name Oswald appears. As you can see, we have these ones that are typed, using the typewriter, and it's able to read Oswald. You can see others here that there are handwritten. Like this one is handwritten. It's still able to capture. It's still able to capture Oswald. You can be able to see. So it reads a document like this. So this is handwritten, but it's able to read it out very, very clear. So this is one of the power of cognitive services, where you can just have this handwritten document and you can be able to read, and you can be able to read and even search within it. The other thing about cognitive search was the ability to form these relationship between different people, different pieces within the data. So if you were to scroll down here, you see it's able to identify this individual as well. Apart from searching from the text, apart from searching the text itself, it's able to even identify images of this guy called Lee Harvey Oswald. So you can see it's able to identify the images as well, apart from just getting all that information. The other thing is that its cognitive search will also be able to form these relationships between pieces within your data. As you can see, it's able to show you who Oswald is tied to what, to who, to what, to where, things like that. And an advantage of places like where you can use things like these, assume like if you're building, for example, an application in engineering, and you have all these documents regarding how something is built. For example, if it's in architecture, you have drawings and descriptions of how a certain how something is built, or how the structure is developed and built. You can be able to apply cognitive search to that kind of data, and you'll be able to form the relationship between your data. And the good thing with cognitive services is that apart from doing the search and applying OCR, it will be able to apply OCR, whether your data is typed, handwritten. You can be able to get all that piece of information from your data. So I'm going to jump back to my slides and maybe highlight some few more things. Free time is far much spent. So as I said, you can be able to consume. As I said, you can be able to consume. You can be able to consume the API, the cognitive services in API into your application. For example, this is a simple C# code that is able to call the endpoint. That is able to call the endpoint of the Azure Cognitive Services. I believe C# also has an SDK for cognitive services, which you can be able to consume as well. So if what happens is, if you were to make a request to the cognitive services, it should be able to return to you a JSON response. And this is when you're making a REST call. And as I said, the C#, Azure Cognitive Services, in some languages, I believe some few languages, it has an SDK which is able to handle most of the calls for you. So one of the easiest places to go and learn about cognitive services is on this URL. If you go to aka.ms/learn COGSVC, this is a learning path on Microsoft Learn regarding the Azure Cognitive Services. So there are several modules, and you can be able to learn and see how you can be able to implement, how you can be able to consume cognitive services. I believe there is also a way you can be able to run these cognitive services in a Docker image and run them locally. You can be able to find that information as well on Microsoft Learn. Maybe if you're building an application that needs to have offline capabilities. So that is something as well you can look into. So unless anyone has a question. So I see someone asking about the slides. So for the slides, if you go to speaker, let me try getting the link for you. Speaker deck. So the slides I used are part of a presentation I did about using artificial intelligence to augment data. So I'm just going to share the same one.
Hi, Josh, I have a question.
Yes.
Well, for the Azure Cognitive Services, see, they had to use some data to train like their models, right? So do they use like customers' data up to date to continue making their services better?
All right. To answer that question, let me try sharing my screen again. Hopefully I can be able to get that as well. Just give me a minute. So let me share my screen. Let me know when you can see. So maybe you can ask your question again, Sonia. Hopefully, so when I'm answering, I'm maybe sure I'm answering it in the correct way.
Yeah, I'm asking if Microsoft uses their customers' data to continue training their cognitive services already, their models.
Oh, so like when you send the data you're sending, whether it's used to retrain, or like for example, when you're sending data to that endpoint, whether it's used to retrain the model.
Yes. Like now the Azure, their own models, yeah.
I'm not sure about that. I'm not certain about that for several reasons, because when you're sending your own data, when you're sending an image, for you to retrain a model, you need to tag it as either you need to have the data correctly labeled. Like for example, if you're training it to identify faces, I need to have data that is already marked as this is a face, this is not a face. So I'm not sure whether they reuse that, but maybe the way I can answer that is when you build your model using something like custom vision, and maybe if you check my slides on the link that I've shared, you can be, once you send images to your endpoint on custom vision, now yourself, you can always be able to go back there and tag the images, because the images will need to be tagged again for you to train. So you cannot be able to retrain a model with data that has come without tagging it. I don't know whether you get what I'm trying to pass across. When you make a request to the endpoint, as you cannot retrain that model using that data until you tag that data again. So the question whether they use the data, customer data, I say I don't know about that. But if they have to do that, they have to have someone sit down and tag all of that data that is coming in. And you can imagine the number of people that use custom vision for that. I mean, cognitive services for that. So I'm not sure about that, but I'm sure when you use custom vision yourself, you can be able to retrain your model using the data that you've sent.
Oh, okay.
All right. I see there is a question. What I said about engineering and visualization. Okay. So I was talking about cognitive search and trying to give an application, a simple application of where it can be helpful. So like I showed you the example of where the Microsoft applied cognitive search on the documents for that the US government released regarding the assassination of JFK. You can be able to apply cognitive search. I was trying to give a simple example. Assume you have there's this maybe there's this company that builds that is involved in architecture, in architecture. So in architecture there goes a lot of work from planning, the assessment of the ground, the design work itself, and all of that. Sorry, not architecture, but in engineering. When you're building, when you're involved in the engineering of a building, there's a lot of work that goes in, from the planning to the execution to the architectural drawing and all of that. So if you have all of that data together, which will involve images, with maybe handwritten notes, and all of that, it is possible for you to collect all of that data, maybe have all of it scanned for data that is not in digital format, and apply cognitive search on it, and you can be able to have this capability. You can be able to have this capability where you're able to see how different pieces within your data are connected, or how they are connected to each other, and you can be able to extract some more intelligence from your data. So that's one example. That's one of the examples that I was trying to give. From that amount of data, and you apply cognitive search on it, you're able to extract this intelligence in terms of how different pieces of your data are all interconnected, and how everything works, and just being able to extract intelligence from your data. I'm not sure whether I've been able to answer your question correctly, Osinach.
Okay, so it's mainly about visualizing the data, how they mix together, how different pieces of a whole system come together.
Yeah, not just visualization, but it's more of getting the relationship between different pieces in your data.
Okay. So extracting
but now,
insights.
once you're able to get those relationships, it's easy for you to have a graph and see how everything is connected, like the graph that I showed you on the JFK. Maybe I can send the link for that website, and you can be able to as well play around with it and see it.
Okay.
All right, Sonia, I don't think there's any other question.
Yeah, okay, cool. So thank you so much, Josh, for presenting, and you guys also for joining us. Yeah, well, you can find a recording of this session on our YouTube channel, or just Google Microsoft Learn Student Ambassadors. Yes. So thank you guys for coming.